Welcome to the Kindling Spirit Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of Kindling Spirit. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Brenton, down here in Texas for the time being.
For the last time. Woohoo! And I'm Rochelle, also one of your hosts. And we're coming to you from, if you have a video, coming to you from inside of our fantasy lands here. A little sweet way to bring in this episode that's going to be kind of free-flowing and just, a little bit about what's inside of us today, what's live inside of us.
Yeah, I used to listen to the Tim Ferriss show podcast for a long time, and he had these things called in-between-episodes, and I hope that's not a copyrighted term. If it is, I'm sorry, Tim. But it's, just kind of not a necessarily scripted version for today's talk, but just to let you know that, we're thinking about you. We haven't forgotten about you or this podcast, but that we've been in the midst of a lot of transitions and changes right now as a business and a group and individually. So today we want to just come to talk to you a little bit about what's present for us. Rochelle and I interviewed a potentially new therapist yesterday, and one of the questions that Rochelle asked in the interview was, what does presence mean to you? And I think that's such a powerful question that we don't often consider. And maybe I want to know if you want to maybe just talk about that a little bit. Like, what does presence mean to you in some ways, Rochelle?
Sure. Yeah. Turning it back on me. Good job. Yeah. I don't think, not only is presence not often talked about, but I think it's not even in public awareness most of the time. Like, what is presence? What do you mean? You know, I'm here, my body's present, but that's not what we're talking about, obviously. I like to call it maybe energetic, spiritual heart attunement. That's like all of me is here with you, is here with the subject matter, is here with the conversation. All layers of my being, my body, my mind, my heart, my spirit, my energy body is all here. And it's attuning, and I think so much of what's happening in this world is really about my body. And we're really racing now because of the speed of technology and the demands of modern society. We're racing through our lives, barely embodied, and everything else is trying to catch up. That's definitely the antithesis of presence. And so it really requires slowing down a lot. And it really requires deep, deep listening. Presence actually provides the opportunity for deep listening because there's so much more than the physical realm. So that's my first take on it.
That's good. I appreciate you using the word attunement. That's still, that's one of the key words for me when I think about presence. Because for me, it's about frequency. It's about vibration. And I think about music. You know, I shared this with you previously, since I have a musical background. I think about, like, what does it mean to be in a whole symphony of things? And if I'm off playing my own music, you know, then there's not going to be that harmony, that kind of coming together that really makes for something beautiful. And I think that that's a good analogy, because presence doesn't always have to mean unity. It doesn't have to mean that I literally become the sunflower in front of me. Although there's kind of esoteric implications to that, right? But it's about being willing to match the pace or the state of whatever, you know, is with me now. And I was thinking, like, okay, well, if I'm not familiar with this idea of presence and what it even means, how do I know what's present on my mind? You know, like, how would I know how to answer this question that you and I want to bring today? And you brought up some points that I think that, you know, it's about uniting both mind and body, because the body, just like the earth element, is always present. It's our mind that wants to go all of these different places. So I think presence for us a lot of times today, especially with technology, like you mentioned, is this means of how can I bring my mind to the speed of my body, to the place of my body, to the location of my body, and then maybe interact with whatever else is around me from that place.
Yeah, that's nice. I think that's important. And you can take it nested a little bit further. Than we're not just attuning the mind to the body, but we're attuning the mind to the body, which nested in the earth. And once those are aligned, then the energy and the heart and the spirit then have the opportunity to be aligned. But if our mind and our body aren't aligned, everything's fractured. And this vibration that you're talking about, I like the word resonance as well. That's something that I would say is associated with presence. And I think there's also a level of awareness. I'm not sure that we can be fully present if we're not aware that presence exists and that there's all those layers there.
Yeah, that's a really important point. And I think that it's maybe harder than it ever has been for us to remember those kinds of things. Because I have these like programmed dopamine hit, dopamine hit, dopamine hit with every scroll. And it's like, well, the magic that we're talking about is it takes 30 minutes sitting in front of a flower to like really experience the magic that happens there. Most of us don't have the attention to sit like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you named it, the technology drawing us away, and capitalism built to draw us away from ourselves so that we can be kind of chained to consumerism and chained to not enoughness, so that we're out, working and buying. Basically, that's the cycle. You got to work to buy, and you got to buy to work. I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And living is thrown in there somewhere, and it's supposed to all just connect. Yeah. As long as you earn it, right? Yeah.
So this is really interesting. This is going to feel like it's a side tangent, and it partly is, but there's some relevance here too. So I've been on a pretty strict autoimmune protocol diet for my health. And I was in the store the other day and checking out, and it was kind of like it was sort of, there was no substances involved, but it was sort of an altered state of consciousness that I was in for just a moment. I was looking around, and everywhere I saw from the checkout was sugar. And there's this book that I read a while back called Anathem, which is a pretty thick, there's a lot of spirituality kind of referenced in there. But they have something called All's Well. And my take on that when I read that book is that that's sugar. And what it does is it creates this false narrative that everything's okay. So then I can move on to the next addiction or the next, difficult task that I just got to get through. But if I have sugar or, something like that, was really interesting. I was just like, wow, what's happening everywhere? Literally everywhere I looked, there was sugar. And that's also presence, right? Being aware of what are the messages that we're receiving, and how are we receiving it from technology? We're receiving it from advertising. We're receiving it from people, and being attuned to how do I want to respond to that?
And you really, gosh, you said it well when you said, these ways that we're being drawn away from ourselves. And that's what I hear you saying that. It's like, oh, look, all of these different stimuli around me that are designed to draw me out of this place of deep kind of autonomous security into temporary kind of fixes that feel good. And whether it's sugar or it's technology or it's, anything in between, you're right. The awareness, the discernment, I like that word too, to come to know, is this bringing me closer to myself or bringing me further away? I think is one of those kind of core questions to ask right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Present. Are you present with yourself? Can you be present with your own emotions? Can you be present with oh, wow, the pace that I'm going at isn't good for my body. Do I need to do something else? And literally the society around us is built so that we are in an addictive mindset almost 24/7. And so I find it personally in me, and I've, done meditation and yoga practices for over 20 years. I'm still oh, I can feel the pull. Right. And it's I have to really root down hard and make a conscious choice of no, I'm going to do what I know is serving me. And that requires pretty intense presence, actually, to just even know that you're getting pulled off center. And I won't go there at this moment, but that takes us into, therapy and what Jennifer Mullen who wrote Decolonizing Therapy, is calling the medical industrial complex or the mental health industrial complex. So I won't go there yet, but that's one of the things that's also present for me, doing a lot of work with that. And it's relevant to this conversation that we're having.
Yeah. As you talk, there's so much of what it seems like there's these profound links between presence and listening,
Mhm,
and that we really can't listen if we're not present.
mhm.
And that's true if we're listening to children, that demand presence, or pets, or ourselves, or clients that are sitting in front of us, kind of like laying their heart out. It's like so much of presence is related to listening. And to mention the decolonizing aspect of healing and wellness as presence for you, it's like so much of that is the way it is now because we haven't listened as a society. We haven't been listening to the ways that the natural world around us is kind of screaming as it's falling apart, the ways that entire cultures have been erased, right? All of this has been this kind of like blind pushing forward, which is kind of similar to the way that we approach health and wellness in the West. This kind of like hard charging, we've talked about it before, rugged isolationism, that if it's going to be, it's up to me and my pharmacy, or whatever else.
Right, right. And I mean, the big thing is like, what did you do wrong? Let's
Mm.
fix what's wrong in you. There's something wrong with your mind. There's something wrong with your body. There's something wrong with your physiology. You have an inherent deficiency of Prozac, which we know is ridiculous. Um, yeah, there's another piece there that I wanted to say. Let's see if I can retrieve it back from the ethers. Yeah, there was something else that I was going to say, but what's coming to mind is this idea recently. I mean, I'm running Creative Spirit Collaborative, so I'm in between the practitioners and the clients and the systems that we are beholden to, and it's a challenge. I have said this before. I often feel like I'm getting chewed up by the jaws of life, being in between there, because the system is not soft and cozy and it doesn't care. And I was thinking about this the other day, that from a therapist standpoint, we are so hit with, is everything you're doing ethical? I mean, there's code of ethics in every therapy practice, which are, by the way, colonized ethics. We need to make sure that that's there and recognize that, because there's so much confusion of like, if you move outside of this ethical practice, then you're being unethical. But that's from a colonized perspective. And the other piece is that, oh man, this makes me so fucking mad that we are beholden to parasitic insurance companies that do not give a fuck about clients or therapists, and they literally come after them. And I just thought the other day, and this just now after 20 years of practice came in my mind, that everything that insurance companies do is unethical.
Mm.
And so again, we're in this jaws of life where it's like, you must be ethical. You've got to do it right, the right way. Who wrote these code of ethics? Old white men. You can count on it. And yet we are in this system where it's just plunging along. There's no human rights relevant to that, right? So a lot of people don't know the backside of insurance. It's like, it doesn't matter what your plan is. It doesn't matter whether you're contracted with them. If the insurance company comes in and says like, you didn't do it right, their word is God. And what are they beholden to? They are beholden to profit. And that is
Mm.
all.
Mm.
And so decolonizing therapy, decolonizing the medical industrial complex. Yes, we really need to do that. And if we're going to hold people accountable to ethics, let's hold them accountable all the way upstream.
Yeah, I'm thinking about listening again, and we're in this strange place where it's like there needs to be this dawning of discernment, like across the board in humanity, so that we are really like critically asking ourselves, who am I listening to and why? Because humans, we have a tendency to like to swing from one side or the other, and what we're not saying is you need to stop listening to all authority because they're all full of shit. That's not true. There's a lot of benefit and wisdom to allopathic medicine in this Western approach, as we've talked about a ton in this podcast.
Yep.
And also, it's a gross injustice and a complete a lack of ethics at all to just disregard thousands of years of human history and deep
Right.
kind of anecdotal spiritual community based wisdom because it hasn't been proven in a research lab that's been sponsored by whatever companies behind it in the first place. And so
Yeah.
it's like this discernment of, as we've talked about before, like how deeply have these kind of modern, really arbitrary rules of society infiltrated our beliefs, and how often then, like the sugar analogy, are these beliefs pulling me from myself? Are they pulling me into these places outside that say you need these things outside of yourself? And we're not just talking about physical things, right? Like medication or food or even community. We're talking about like the capacity to discern, the capacity to choose what is best for me based on the resonance of my body. Like all of that is being outsourced right now. And
Right.
so it's no wonder then that we continue to just kind of turn a blind eye and support all of these systems because we feel that they're necessary, because nobody ever really questions who are these people that are making these rules and why is it important that we follow them? Why is it important that we continue to pay taxes to governments that bomb children and traffic women and children? You know, it's like those are real questions that we all need to be asking right now. And they have implications at the global level as much as they do like at home individually looking in the mirror. And that connection is another one of those big kind of admitting points that we all have to kind of wake up to right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I want to go back and sort of reclaim what I had said or forgot before, which is this idea about listening. And I want to be really clear that this is a deep listening. It's listening from the heart or listening from the spirit. Because a lot of people think like, oh, I'm listening. I hear the words that you're saying, right? But there's so many other messages there. And there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of discernment that needs to happen of like, okay, not that, not that, not that. Sometimes the listening isn't the loud blaring message that comes forward. It's like the underlying message or what's not being said, right? And there's a lot of that in colonization of like what's not being said. And we take these messages and the ways the systems are operating, we consume them really kind of wholesale. And that's not anybody's fault, but we're kind of force fed it from birth, right? And we really need to stop and do some discernment, do some assessment of like, right, where are the values here? And it's like, here it is, the sugar, the all's well, just like puts us in this zombie mode to where we can't listen, right? It was just like going along. Technology does it too. It's like, la, 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 la. I have to work, I have to work, I have to consume, I have to consume. And there's not enough mental clarity to be able to drop in with presence and recognize like, oh, and this is another thing that came up the other day, right? Oh, all of my tax money is going to a government that is creating war all over the world and is implicated in child trafficking and, sex abuse. What?
Yeah.
I don't want to pay for that. Many hundreds of years ago, I think it was Henry David Thoreau, took a stand in civil disobedience and didn't pay his taxes because he didn't like what the government was doing, and it was related to slavery. And I thought, oh, that's cute, that's quaint. If we didn't pay our taxes, we probably would be the ones that would be arrested, not the president of the United States who's, doing whatever he wants to do. And just, we're not saying anything new. There's people talking about this all over the place. Our civil liberties and our awareness of civil liberties it's just eroding. It's like, I don't know, sandstone, just like melting in our hands. And largely there's an undercurrent, a grassroots movement, but on the like front page, nobody's saying anything about it.
Lots of apathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in our political system for sure. And how is this related to spirituality and all of this? Oh, it's so related, right?
Yeah, it's yoga off the mat, as we often talk about.
Yeah.
This is related to, really, if I could kind of concisely, clearly articulate what's been present for me, which is obviously very related to everything we're talking about. It's It's that there's a reality beyond the physical world to who we are that we are largely apathetic and asleep to as a society. And say what you will about it. It's been covered up. It's been inhibited. Right, the knowledge has been secret. There's a lot that we could go into there. But the kind of end all be all baseline to this is that we each owe it to ourselves to come to discern like what that inner part of us is. And a lot of spiritual traditions have these different ideas of what that looks like. But the thing is, like, that's a deeply personal journey and one that we each have to go through. And it may seem like it's kind of this further walking into apathy, because it seems like there's a lot of like real grassroots boots on the ground action that needs to happen right now to make this world different and better. And that's true. And also not everybody has the nervous system or the capacity or the privilege or whatever else to show up in those ways. It's important that we come to wake up. I guess really it's the waking up part. I'm like, it's time to wake up, right? It's time to really get with the program and get with the reality of what's going on right now, because there's this beautiful, unique opportunity that we have every time that we breathe, every lifetime that a human has. It's just like, it's fucking astronomically rare to have an opportunity to spend life and consciousness on a planet as beautiful as this. And it's like, what else are we doing here? Mm-hmm. What do each of you want to do? So like, to everybody listening that's kind of maybe on the fence with some of this and is curious about what deep listening actually feels like close your eyes for a second and maybe put your attention like on your physical chest, or put your hand there, or your hand on your belly and your intestines, and like directly ask your small intestines, like, what is present for you right now, and what am I not listening to? What am I ignoring? What is something that's inside that I'm ready to hear that you maybe have been telling me? Maybe ask your knees that question. Right? We're such this top-down, head-centered society that sometimes when we just ask other places in our body, there's incredible insight that opens up to us. Mm-hmm. Let alone everything that's kind of quote unquote beyond the veil in and around us.
Yeah, and it takes practice, it does require some guidance from some source. It can be from a tree, it can be from mm-hmm. a human that you really deeply trust, because let's be really clear that there are plenty, if not all, spiritual traditions are also co-opted. Right. And this is where you're talking discernment. And one of the things that I thought of is like, we need, a college course on critical thinking. Like, how do we separate ourselves from all the beliefs that we've been taught and look around and see like, what other beliefs are there to choose from, and how do I, part of the ways people, the president, Deepak Chopra, other spiritual leaders, how do they manipulate it? Part of that is attachment, longing for connection, so there's reasons that we get deluded in that. And it's like, here's where we need to start to pull that apart and dive deeper, listen deeper into our psyches and into our bodies. Like, what is actually going on? What is actually present? And the more you start to drop in, kind of like the leaves in your background, it's like, oh, whoa, there's another layer of existence. What? There's still another layer. And that's infinite, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point, because and I'm certainly guilty of it too. Those of us who have been doing this work for a long time have likely touched into mystical experience at times doing it. And so when you practice deep enough and long enough, you start to kind of touch into those. And that's what yoga says, right? Samadhi, enlightenment, is not this like permanent state that I've reached and I'm done. It happens in flashes when concentration is deep enough. But those flashes kind of open up and feel like an eternity when they're there. But it's easy to talk about those mystical experiences 20 years into practice. It's much more challenging to approach, wanting those kind of deep, like, wow, kind of insight, interconnected experiences if I'm having trouble meditating for 10 minutes a day kind of thing. And so what I'm trying to say is that when some of my beginning meditation students would talk about these incredible insights and answers that they would get in meditation, like they would ask this question and sit down for meditation, and within 30 seconds, they had this profound answer. And I would often ask them, how do you know that that didn't come from your brain?
Mhm.
And there's not a definitive answer to that. What I tend to find is that the answers that I seek are not instantaneous. They unfold in weeks and months afterward through synchronicity and through subtle kind of interaction and relationship. And we fall asleep to that kind of subtle magic when we expect the instantaneous fulfillment of a scroll dopamine hit or hitting a button and it takes me to a new web page. It's like we've lost that subtle transitionary kind of awareness in light of this new kind of on-off binary technology.
Oh, for sure. And we have it in the in medicine too, right? Here, just take this pill and you'll be all better. And it's like, wow, healing. My doctor said this to me the other day on this diet. I've been on it for 6 weeks. And I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about reintroducing foods now. And she's like, maybe you should consider being on it 3 to 6 months. And I was like, wow, because it's really restrictive, right? And she's like, well, how long have you been having symptoms? My whole life, really. And it's like, right, there I am again, stuck in this, like, let's get it done, right? And how long does it actually take the body to heal? And I see this in clients that I work with somatically too. And we do somatic sessions, and I can tell because our language starts to change when we're actually in the body. And I can tell when somebody is actually in the mind versus the body is speaking. But oftentimes, if people don't have the somatic experience, they don't know. And they're like, oh, I'm getting, sort of like you said, I'm getting all these insights. I'm like, keep going, because there's more there. The body speaks and moves very slowly, and it often doesn't have a lot of language. It has very succinct messages. People are like, oh, da 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 da, and I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. It's good. But that's that road, right? That path.
Yeah, because you're right. The body is very clear. This is nourishing for me. This is not good for me. And you feel it. Like you literally feel it within minutes or sometimes moments. Your body is really good about communicating in present time what it wants, what it needs, what's good for it or beneficial for it or not.
Yeah. Unfortunately, our society has really taught us not to listen. We have to continually override our body for the food that we eat, the lands that we live on, the technology that we're engaged in, the way that we work, the way that people communicate. There's just so many ways that we override the body's messaging system. And we've pathologized it as well. People come in and say, like, I want to get rid of this anxiety. And I'm like, why would you get rid of it? It's actually telling you something valuable, And if we listen, then it starts to change. But there's so many ways. The body is very, if we allow it to be, it can be deeply, deeply attuned, deeply subtle in its perception and communication. Yeah. So there we are, back into that deep heart listening.
Yeah, I was thinking like maybe to kind of come full circle and kind of end with a sense of hope, because what we're talking about is a lot of like just the heaviness that comes with being a soul and a spirit in a body in Western society now. And there's a lot of stacking heaviness that comes with that.
Totally.
And so one of the things that I hear that's a really, really approachable kind of entryway into this work is to practice like turning off external distractions, like set a timer for 2 minutes on your watch, on your phone, whatever. Turn off your phone, turn off the TV, and see if you can just sit in quiet. And if you want, you can close your eyes. You don't have to, but just kind of tune in to different places in your body. Notice, like, how does my back feel right now? How does my stomach feel? Like, am I hungry? Is this hunger? And just sit with the experience. This is hunger right now, rather than rushing to fill it or change it. And I think that's the main thing, like just tuning into the body without the desire to immediately adjust it or make it different is a practice of listening that eventually leads to discernment. But we can't discern if we always just knee-jerk decide without ever really sitting with whatever's present first.
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful practice. And it can be also really challenging for people. And I might offer an alternative that if it doesn't feel good or safe or comfortable or knowledgeable to go into the body, especially if there's been trauma, the way that I find an easy way in when I'm really disturbed is to sit outside with something that is soothing, with a running water like a creek, or sitting with a tree, like just a little breeze going through the treetops. And it's like, and just tuning your awareness to the subtleties. What do you see? Do you see bugs? Do you see light sun rays? Can you feel or hear or sense messages on the wind? Like there's so much there. And so that's another practice that they're both really valuable and important. And you can choose depending on what feels more accessible to you in the moment.
That's excellent. Thanks for sharing that. And that has certainly been maybe even more than my own body. The natural world has been a tool for presence for me in those ways. I appreciate your saying that. And really, the deepest truth of this, and this is the way that you and I actually work with people in these ways, Rochelle, is coming to realize that there is no difference between working with the body and working with the natural world.
That's right. That's totally right on. Yep. So if you start on the outside
right.
with nature, it'll come inside. If you start on the inside with the body, it'll come outside to nature because it is one and the same.
Mm-hmm. Holographic portals. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, thanks for musing. Yeah. This podcast was birthed from just conversations like this between us, and it's nice to know that we can just show up without any agenda or preparation and bring depth and clarity to some of this stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your presence, Brenton. Thanks for your presence, and then also listeners, watchers, thanks for your presence.
Yeah, we invite you to chew on what presence is and what's present for you in about a month until we release our next episode. To let you all know, I will be transitioning geographically. I will be moving back to the Pacific Northwest, back home. So when Rochelle and I bring you these next episodes, we will be recording in person, probably in beautiful locations. So our quality will improve, and we're excited to kind of move into a new chapter of this podcast up there.
Yeah, it'll feel different. And in the meanwhile, please send us some messages about what is present for you and what presence is for you. That would be really cool to hear from you.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can do that. Send an email to us, or even better, you can join our free community on Patreon, where we have a lot of interaction and kind of a hub for this kind of discussion too. Yeah. Well, thank you to everybody listening. Thanks, Rochelle. It's always good to jam with you, and look forward to diving into some more kindling spirit in the weeks and months to come.